All right. Good morning, Robert. It's great to see you again. How are you?
I'm well, Mark. It's great to see you again. I hope everything is well with you and your family.
Thanks. It is. It's the last week of August already, 2014, heading into the fall season. As they say every year, time flies when you're having fun, right?
Absolutely correct.
So we're here for our leadership series, and let's just get started. If you can just tell the audience briefly who you are, what you do, that would be great.
Well, sure. I'm Robert Whyte, and I do two things. First and foremost, I have a company called Good Time Beverages, and Good Time Beverages produces margaritas, cosmopolitans. I'm looking around my desk to see if I can find something. We also do, there we go. We do vodkas, and we do brandies, and we do all those types of things. And we put them in our patented flexible pouches that we designed. And we sell these products in 15 states and now 4 countries. And it's a startup company that we started 3 years ago. And I funded the company through a program called EB5, which is a government program for foreigners to invest in America and get green cards for themselves and their family. It's a misunderstood program that actually creates tremendous employment. And in the last year alone, about $1.8 billion dollars in investment in companies like mine. And I can tell you, we would never have found any other source of funding. And so I formed a second little company called EB5USADirect.com, which is basically a matchmaking service between investors and companies so they have the opportunity to come together and take advantage of this wonderful government program. So I'm doing those two things.
Yeah, and we'll get into that a little bit too, because I find that extremely valuable information. You obviously have a diverse background, as I know, from investment banking to entrepreneurship, international, etc. This is about leadership to start with. How have you determined in both those roles the right fit leadership needed for different types of businesses?
Well, I think there's a huge differentiation between what is someone who's a boss and someone that's a leader. And I always see the difference as a boss who's just driving employees, depends on authority, says I a lot, seems to always know how it's done, and takes credit for everything. A leader doesn't do that. A leader has a different set of qualities. In my opinion, they coach employees, they generate enthusiasm. A leader uses the words we, they give credit, and instead of saying go, like a boss would, a leader says, let's go. In other words, they're trying to take the team along with them. They're trying to make it possible for the team to expand, grow, and make its own mistakes and many times fall on its face.
It's interesting. I heard something a while back that I remember. Someone told me a boss is one that really is someone that works at a cemetery where no one's listening to him.
That's correct. And leaders, it is true, anybody can become a leader if they work at it. It's a matter of just taking the time and making the effort to listen to your people. And I think there was a study a little while ago by Xerox, a small little American company, which said that people aren't listening 90% of the time, and a leader does listen more than 10% of the time.
Smart, smart. Well, we all know board members at both large companies and startups are valued people, valued leaders. But there's also a right fit scenario, there too. In again, as an entrepreneur and as an investment banker, where you are maybe even a member of the board or you're an advisor or looking to be on the board. How have you looked at that right fit between board members themselves and with the executive of the business?
Well, I stay away from boards. I guess it has a lot to do with my investment banking training, working with lawyers all the time. I try and stay away personally from boards. And being a board member has a tremendous amount of responsibility, whether it's a private company or if it's a public company. It takes hours and hours and hours of preparation to get ready for a board meeting if you're going to do it correctly. Yeah, sure, some guys think that they're brilliant on demand and they can just walk into a meeting and understand and grasp the situation at hand. But my feeling is that you can't. You just can't really understand the intricacies of what's going on when a CEO brings a problem to the board or an opportunity to a board. You really have to do that work. So if you're a board member, it's much like being a leader. You have to spend a lot of quiet time preparing so that you completely and truly understand what the various components are of the decision you're about to make or that you're going to vote on. So I try and stay away from that. It's for me, I just don't have the time to sit on boards. I get asked all the time, will you sit on a board? Will you be an advisor? Will you come on our advisory committee, et cetera, et cetera? And I just say no, because it takes real dedication. So if you're in a position where you're being asked to be on a board or be a board member now of a privately held company, you really better think it through, because there's liability issues, there's time issues, there's commitment issues, and then you have to really stand by the decisions that you help formulate on that board. When it comes to an advisory committee, it's the same thing. Some people want to put you on an advisory committee because you have experience. In my case, I've been involved with publicly traded companies. I formed a publicly traded company. I had the most successful publicly traded company in 1986. That's a long time ago, but it was a big deal back then. And so they say, well, they want to use your name and they want to bring you on and kind of drag you into these situations. And the truth of the matter is that you're better off focusing on your friends, your family, not in that order, family first, I would say, friends, and your business. And really, if you're going to get the best out of your business, and if you're going to be a good leader for your business and for your team, you have to put in the time. It doesn't happen overnight. And that means you have to spend time on the internet. Today, it's our number one tool. Our number one business tool is being able to punch up who, what, where, when, why, how does it work, how does it come together, what are the repercussions of a negative reaction, what are the positive repercussions of a positive reaction. So few of us have just done nothing before. I mean, everybody's done this before, whether it's building a bottle or building a pouch or building a cocktail. We have the ability to go online today and get international expertise to help us lead our businesses. It's a tremendous advantage, tremendous.
Yeah, and I'm going to touch on that a little bit also in the global opportunities. With respect to investment, though, like you were talking about before, you secured funding, as you said, innovatively for Good Time Beverage and with the EB5. How would you advise business owners, management people, to make the right leadership decisions on not only how to source it, which is an opportunity you're giving them, but the right type, the right structure, the right everything to do? Because most of them, at the end of the day, especially private companies, most of them are good business people in what they do, but not good in that financial investment.
That is so true. In fact, I would say to many of my clients when I was an investment banker that the most advantageous thing that they can do when we're out trying to raise capital for them is for them to run their businesses. And if they can continue to get their revenues up and grow their business and show that there really is a strong business there, they're helping the investment bankers tremendously. But look, Mark, let's face the facts, okay? Money is hard to find. If you go and try and get it from an angel, you're going to be dealing with some, I don't want to use the three-letter word that starts with an A and ends with an S, but you're going to deal with that type of a person who thinks he knows something about everything, only because he made some money perhaps selling slippers. And now all of a sudden he's become an angel investor, and he thinks he knows everything about everything. So that's the second thing, and by the way, that's 95% of them. There is 5% that are really good and let you run your business, but they're hard to find. Then there's venture capital. Now, the deal with venture capital is pretty simple. Venture capital guys are going to come in and take 60% of your business because they know they're going to get diluted in the next round, and they want to be left at the end of the day with 20 to 30% of the business. So you do the math. The second thing is that a venture capitalist is 9 times out of 10 within the first 18 to 24 months going to fire the CEO, probably the COO, and all of the original founders of the business if it's a real business. So knock those guys out. Then you got the private equity guys. The private equity guys are only going to look at your business if you have $10 million in top-line revenue and $2 million of EBITDA. I can't tell you how many times as a banker I heard that. Oh yeah, well look at that business. Do they have greater than $10 million of top-line revenue and $2 million of EBITDA? If you don't have that, then they're out. Okay, they're not going to spend any time on your business. And not only that, most private equity firms get about 12,000 submissions a year. 12,000 submissions. So unless you're prepared to deliver your submission with a baseball bat and flowers and a couple of other things, and probably some dancing girls in high heels, you're not going to get any attention to your deal. And the only way you get attention to your deal is when the venture capitalist, who remember has 60% of your business, calls his buddy in the private equity world and says, we're about ready to bring in another partner. Translation, we're ready to start taking an exit. Okay, so that's kind of how it works. So what does that leave the investment person with? And what does it leave the company with? It leaves the company with very few real choices. And that's why we went to EB5. Now, I will be completely straightforward that 3 years ago, I didn't even know what the words EB5 meant. I heard it from a friend of mine who is a Malaysian businessman, and he said to me, what about EB5? And I had no idea. So I spent the next week studying all about it, and then I learned that, hey, look, there's over $6 billion, again, B with a billion, B, that has been invested over the last 5 to 10 years from EB5. And these are people that are coming to America with their families and they're investing in businesses. There are two parts of EB5. There's something called regional centers, which I don't have anything to do with, and then there's direct investment, which I do have something to do with. Regional centers are different. Those are huge multi-million-dollar regional real estate projects that some have failed, quite truthfully. People have lost their money, and there's a few problems in the industry with regard to who's operating some of those regional centers. And then there's just direct, where you can invest in a franchise if you want to open up a franchise. You can open up a business. You can save a business that's about to go under, or you can just invest in an ongoing business. And it allows the opportunity for the investor to invest $500,000 to $1 million, and you can raise $5 million or $10 million. It doesn't really matter. We raised $1 million originally. We're out raising another $2 million right now, and that's kind of what that program allows. And you work directly with the investor, and there's a tremendous advantage to that. So when you look at the ways that, you look at the ways that companies can possibly find money to grow their businesses, there's very few of them. The SBIC, the SBA, they're not going to lend money to a struggling business. They may if you're completely minority owned and you're out in North Dakota somewhere and you're providing a service to the pig farmers. Yes, possibly the SBA will lend you money, but otherwise they're not going to lend you money unless you give them your home, your car, and your children's first birthright. So you have to find a different way. And as a business person, you have to be smart about it. So you have to be smart about it. And I strongly suggest that people look at our website, which is a matchmaking of investors from around the world and businesses. And anybody can go on there. And yes, there's a small fee, but you can go on there. It's not expensive. And see it. It's eb5usadirect.com. And that's kind of the financial world in a nutshell.
So the benefit really, and they can look on the website, the benefit for a business leader is funds they may never have access to, and is there an active participation of these investors in the business?
For example, my original investor, who lives in Shanghai, China, is our international marketing director. That's his official title, and he does do that role, and he does work on trying to find us distribution in China. But sometimes the investor wants to be more actively involved, sometimes the investor doesn't. And that's really for the business owner to negotiate and allow the business owner the opportunity to set the parameters. It's very important to set those parameters so that the investor knows exactly what he is getting and isn't getting. Look, let's call a spade, okay? At the end of the day, the investor wants one thing. They want to get a green card for themselves and their family. The business owner wants one thing. They want capital to grow their business, okay? And so at the end of the day, it's a win-win for everybody involved. But who's the third winner in this deal? America. America's the third winner because the program requires the business to hire 10 new employees over the next 2.5 to 3 years. So you're creating 10 new jobs from the money and from the new revenues you're generating from the investment you received. So it's a win for the investor, it's a win for the business owner, and it's a win for America. And that's why I love this program. I just love it.
The obviously, if even through your website, the internet, social media has affected business owners and their decisions. Sometimes positively, sometimes negatively if they don't use it properly.
I think it's a
What's
good
your
and a bad
experience
thing.
in
We
that
talked a
in
little
that
bit
realm?
earlier about how it's so advantageous for business owners, entrepreneurs to get whatever information they need on the internet without having to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars with marketing consultants. So that's a win. When it comes to social media, we're
Hmm.
skeptical. I think that we haven't used it for Good Time Beverages for our cocktail company. We use it limited within limitation is the best way to put it. We do have a Facebook page, of course, and we do use LinkedIn and we use other types of things. But I I can't judge. Well, the best way I like to describe it is the following. Let's say you, Mark, go down to your local supermarket today, okay, and pick any aisle you want, okay, and start walking down the aisle. And think about, as you walk down that aisle, all the products you're seeing on the left and right, how many of them have touched you with social media? I'd venture to say none, okay? So the question is, are those companies spending money on social media? Most likely, yes, they are. Somewhere, but they're not reaching you as a consumer, and that's what's important. So when I look at it, I say, what is the best way for me to market my Bob and Stacy's brand cocktails? Well, the answer is not social media. The answer, in my case, is to red tag and lower the prices so that I get people's attention when they're in the buying mode to my product. And all I want them to do is try my product once, and then the product has to speak for itself. Either it's a winner or it's a loser. In our case, we're fortunate it's a winner. So did social media make that decision?
Right.
No. Now, are there people who actually go to their supermarket based on whatever coupons they've got from social media or whatever specials or promotions? It's possible. Maybe 1%, maybe 2%. But I don't think that a social media campaign can say to a consumer, I am going to drive today to my drugstore and buy this product because my friend Millie just told me on Facebook that it's a great product. By the time she gets to the drugstore, she will have forgotten what the product is.
Yeah, absolutely. No, good points. Last few questions here, a little more brief, I guess, because they can be long topics. We both know how community involvement is really critical to personal and career growth. We met initially, me coming in from Canada, and through Lava, which is an organization you were directly involved with. Young up
This
and
is
coming
critical,
leaders, can you
Mark.
tell
It's
them
so
why it's so
important
important to be
that
involved that way?
I can't even, describe it in a short number of words. Listen, if you want to get ahead in business, you've got to network. Okay, you've got to know people. You've got to get out there and shake hands and kiss babies. When I moved to Los Angeles from New York, I didn't know anybody, and somebody invited me to the Los Angeles Venture Capital Association. I liked the meeting. There were about 100 people there. I got involved. I ended up sitting on committees. From the committees, I went on the board. From the board, I became president of the organization for 2 years. And from that, I formed another organization called Meat Eaters Ball, where we started with 100 people. And when we ended it 5 years later, there were 1,400 people involved. 1,400 people that still walk up to me on the street and go, I love that Meat Eaters Ball. It was the best networking event in the world. And guess what? We raised $100,000 for the Children's Hospital here in Los Angeles. So, you get out into the community and you start meeting people. It's important because you can never tell which one of those business cards is going to lead to the next business opportunity. One thing before I leave the topic. When I was a banker in New York, we would get a bonus every year based on the work we did. And there were certain percentages that were allotted for how much time you worked on a certain deal. But at the firm I worked at, you also got a 10 to 15% part of your bonus for mentoring younger people. And if the senior managers didn't see you mentoring the next generation, you didn't get that bonus. Now, I was fortunate because I love young people. I love working with them. And guess what? They end up doing all the work. So at the end of the day, it's a win-win-win. Uh, Again, you got to think through the parameters here. Support young people and get them out and get them out networking. It's very important.
These
Yeah, I
days,
think
there's a
that's the
lot more
case.
younger people, I find. I wonder if that's because maybe we're getting older. Has there been
Well, I
someone
get
that you
asked
met
that
that's been a
occasionally,
major
and
influencer in
I
your
always
career or
go
your
back to
life?
one person, and for me, it was Ronald Reagan. I'm fortunate enough to remember, actually remember going to listen to him speak at a conference in Las Vegas, the National Association of Broadcasters, when he was president, and that memory has stayed with me my entire life. And I think he is the ultimate leader. I mean, here's a guy that nobody thought could be a president, never mind a great president, and in my estimation, probably one of the all-time historical best presidents that led this great country of ours.
Yeah, and the Reagan Library shows a lot of that stuff. It's fantastic.
Yeah, well, of course, it's got to
Right
be
here in Los
hockey.
Angeles.
The Los
Easy
Angeles Kings
questions.
have
Personal.
won
You
the
have a
Stanley
favorite
Cup
sport?
now 2 times out of 3 years, and they're starting to get some traction, which I think is great, and it's great for the sport. It's one of those sports that has never been as popular as baseball or football in America. Of course, being Canadian, I was weaned on hockey, as I know you were. So I'm very, very pleased. And in the summertime, I love going to watch my Angels play. Although they lost
Yep.
last night, I think they have a good shot of getting into the World Series this year. I'm
Yeah,
at this
I agree
point,
with you on all
and as
those
you know,
counts.
the
Do you have a
Emmys were
favorite
last
movie
night.
or TV
I was
show?
pleased to see that Breaking Bad won 6 Emmys. Incredible show that is perhaps the most
Yeah.
addictive television show I've seen since Game of Thrones, and a true tribute to the writers and producers of that show. Just amazing. And the subject matter is somewhat off color, and I understand that. I don't condone any of those activities, but I will say, what a tremendous show, just beyond belief. That's correct, and
No, it is.
also
But
a
we didn't condone
tremendous
Archie Bunker either,
series
but it
for
still
the
sent
years
a
it
good
was on,
message,
and I'm
and it
old
was
enough to
entertainment,
remember those
right?
shows. Yeah, my favorite band in the
No,
world
I'm
is a
not.
band from Oakland, California called
Do you have a
Tower of
favorite
Power.
music?
Love going to see them. They've been around for 45 years. Still most of the original members, and I think they've got about 30 albums out. So it's real soul, funk, R&B type music, and I love that. Well, being married to a Korean woman, you eat a lot of Korean food.
How about food?
I don't really have a favorite food, but certainly I can tell you that my palate has expanded from the days of smoked meat in Montreal.
Me as well. And on that
It
note,
was my pleasure, Mark. It's always great
thank you so
talking
much
to
for your
you, and
time
I
and
wish you
your
luck with
insights.
all your
It's
projects and
fantastic. We
best to
really
you and your
appreciate it.
family. Thanks, Mark.